Welcome back to Coding with Kyle, and we're going to go ahead and look at the next feature. So this is Bodhi's feature. Alright, so shooting the enemy with fireballs, and this is an attack type feature. It's going to be enemy player sprite, and the fireball needs to find and recognize the enemy, then move towards the enemy, something to start the attack, and then we change the enemy or player HP. Alright. So shooting the enemy with fireballs. All right, so there's a couple of ways that we can do this. And let's go ahead and create a new project for the example. So our player sprite is going to be shooting fireballs. So we're going to need to make a new sprite that is a fireball. And looks like there's nothing that says fireball, but we can find a ball and we'll just draw some flames on it. So we'll use this ball. We'll go over to costumes, and we'll just make this one fireball. And yeah, let's just draw some flames. Maybe a nice orange color. Let this go down. And fireball. It's gonna need some flames. Alright, so that's gonna represent our fireball for now. And you can spend more time on the art later. But we need this to come from the player. And we probably want to change the costume to have some type of shooting animation. So let's use this one. This will be the shoot costume. This will be our main costume. And under the shoot costume, we'll go ahead and make like some type of barrel looking thing, kind of like a big cannon. Maybe he's just holding it right there. And this is our cannon, and the fireball is just going to come out of there. Okay. And we probably want to make the size of this fireball a little bit smaller. There we go. Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and start off with the code. So the first thing, we're trying to shoot the enemy with a fireball. So one of the first things we need is to start the attack. Okay, and then we'll worry about finding and recognizing the enemy afterwards. So let's go ahead and start the attack first. So the player is going to need a button to start the attack. We can use the space key. And what it's going to do is we're going to switch our costume to our shooting animation, right? So switch costume to shoot, and then we need to basically summon this fireball. So this fireball is going to be invisible. So to do that, we need the code that controls the fireball, showing it and hiding it, is going to be in looks. But we can only show and hide the current sprite that we're on, which is our player. So if we want to control the fireball, then we're going to have to put the code over there. So how do we get code from this side to go over there? And whenever we want to communicate across sprites or across backgrounds, we need to broadcast a message. So we're going to hit space, we're going to switch the costume to shoot, we're going to broadcast a message that says fire, I guess, to summon the fireball. And then what we want to do is wait maybe a quarter of a second, maybe 0.5 seconds. We'll see what that looks like. And then we want to switch our costume back from shoot to the main costume. And then put a nice little stop the script at the end. So this is going to just be in charge of I hit the space key and my guy does the little shooting animation. So perfect. So now what we need to do is under Fireball, we start off our game with the green flag being pressed, and it needs to start off invisible. Okay, it's not going to be seen because it's going to come from the other thing, right? So from our player. So that's going to be it for setting it up right now. Just green flag, it's not there. So remember, our player is broadcasting this message fire. That's going to signal to the fireball that, hey, it's your time to come out. So we're going to go to events and we're going to receive the message of fire. So we're going to start this next block of when I receive fire, that means it's time to show up. It is time to go find some enemies. So it's going to show up, and we need to have it show up at a certain spot. So we're going to have it go to, not a random position, but to the player. If I hit the green flag, it disappears. I hit the space bar, and my character does its firing animation, and now I have summoned a fireball. Okay, cool. So it needs to go to the player, show. What it's going to do next is make a clone of itself and then go back to disappearing. Create a clone of myself, and then we're going to go back to hiding the fireball. So why are we doing this? This seems a little bit weird. We're creating a clone of it because you are able to fire multiple fireballs. And so maybe you have a couple on the screen at the same time. And we don't want to have a bunch of fireball sprites. We only want to have one. So the original fireball sprite is just going to show up, create a clone of itself, disappear, and then the clone is going to move forward. And that's how we're going to keep firing it. And let's test something real quick. We hit the space bar and it goes to the player. And you see how it's going right in the center? Well, we kind of want it to be here because that's where our barrel is going to be, right? So this negative, let's see, 27, negative 151, and then this one, there's a couple in here. Why was that space not lining up? Okay, well, we wanted to basically go to the right about 50 and then probably down about 20. So we're going to go to the player and then we're going to change X by about 50 and change Y needs to go down, so it's negative 20. All right, so this is going to go ahead and make the fireball start at the player, but kind of look more from the barrel of our fireball launcher, I guess, is what we're using. So events, now we're creating this clone and we need the clone to do something. So whenever, this is under control, this is the one start that's under control, which is when I start as a clone, we want the fireball to take off and start shooting forward. So we're going to go ahead and we'll just go ahead and have it move 10 steps. And for right now, we'll just say that it'll do that forever, and then it'll hit the end. So let's start off with the green flag. It disappears. We click space, and our fireball fires. All right, so we got some motion. So let's go back here. So we start the enemy. We start the attack. It moves towards the enemy. Well, it's definitely moving forward. And so now it needs to find and recognize the enemy. So there's a couple ways to do this. We could create a fireball that has a homing attack. And so let's create an enemy real quick. So that way it can go over. We're going to fight. Should we fight bananas? That would be funny. But no, maybe not. Let's fight this crab. Let's cook some crab tonight. All right, so we have this crab, and we could do a couple of things. We could say that the fireball, instead of moving 10 steps, that it's going to not go to, but glide towards the crab. That was interesting. Why did that happen? No idea. So we hit spacebar and we shoot a fireball, and now it's going towards the crab. And if the crab was down here, if you notice, the fireball continues to go towards the crab whenever we fire. So that's kind of like a homing attack. The other thing we can do, which is what I'm going to do, is just have it keep moving 10 steps. And so now it's just going to shoot forward. And now if the crab is in front of it, it'll get hit and give us points. But those are the two different ways to do the different attacks. And I'm not sure when it says find and recognize the enemy. That sounds like a homing attack, but that could also mean that we just want the fireball to know when it hits the enemy, which is very important for keeping score, right? Because that's going to change the enemy for player HP. So let's go ahead and work on the enemy getting hit and changing the HP. So we need a variable that's going to be enemy HP. It's going to go here, and we'll put it on the right side of the screen. Whenever we create a variable, we always need to go to backdrop and say whenever the green flag is pressed, that signals our game is starting, and we need to set one of these variables to something. You'll also have to work on, if your enemy is hidden at first, showing and hiding the enemy health bar or the variable whenever they pop out. But for right now, we're going to assume that they're popped out. All right, so we set the enemy HP to 0, stop the script to complete our puzzle piece. Now we're going to go to Fireball, and while it's moving 10 steps, we need to check something. We need to check every time if it's hit the enemy yet, or if it's if it hit the edge. Okay, so we want to move 10 steps, and then we're going to check if the ball is touching. So that's part of sensing. Is it touching the crab? If so, we've hit the crab, and we're going to deal damage to the crab. So if it touches the crab, you know, we can even add a cool little explosion animation. So let's duplicate this sprite, and we'll add some more fire to it. Well, I don't like that color. Let's do the dropper. Where's the dropper? Can usually get the exact color. Oh, there we go. The dropper. We want that color. Boom. Okay. Back to the paintbrush. So now we're kind of like bursting and exploding and hitting the crab. Yeah, so this will be our, we'll call this impact. So if we impact the crab. We'll probably want to like draw that a little bit better later, right? But just real quick, that's the costume. So if it's touching the crab, we're going to switch the costume to impact. Then we're going to wait just a split second, so just 0.2 seconds, and then the fireball is going to disappear and go away. So we're going to hide the fireball, and that's when we want to change the enemy HP and deal damage. So then we want the enemy's HP to go down. So if it's going down, it needs to go negative, and we'll say it goes down by -5. So it's going to deal 5 damage. And you can just change that number to be whatever you want. The other thing we want to check for, okay, so if it's not touching the crab, what if we miss the crab? If it's not touching the crab, we want it to keep moving until it hits the crab. But if we miss the crab, like down here, what happens when it gets to the edge? It's still, you can kind of see on the edge that it's still visible. The fireball is still visible, and we don't want that because that means there's going to be a bunch of clones of fireballs in our program, and it's going to mess up. It can make our program slower. If a crab spawns and comes from the right side and hits the fireball, it might take damage before we even see it because our old attacks are hanging around. So we don't want that. So if they hit the edge, we want them to go away as well. So if, this is a sensing thing now, so if we're touching the edge, then we don't even want to switch costumes or wait any amount of time. We just want to immediately hide it, and that's going to take care of our miss. So let's hit the green flag. We've started and shoot a fireball. You know, I'm missing the crab. It's coming from our thing. Gets to the edge and disappears. Oh, and it just disappears. Interesting. So the clone. So where'd the original go? So let's try this again. So we're getting close. Oh, our program is unresponsive, so I broke something really badly. This is usually why we want to hide. Oh, we don't want to hide. Oh, we want to delete the clones. There's a part where it says create clone of myself. Instead of hiding, we should be deleting it. Oh no. This is the first part. This is the first video so far. I'm surprised it's taken this long for us to actually crash Scratch. This is why you have to be careful with clones. We made a bunch of clones really fast, and now we are having trouble resetting the page, and I'm a little worried. Let's see if we can save it. Oh no, we can't even save it. So that means if we were to reset the page, it will delete all of our code. Oh no. All right, so I'm going to describe what needs to happen next. So basically what we need to do is instead of hiding, we need to delete the clone. Change this to delete clone, and it's under control right above create clone. We need to change hide to delete clone. If it's touching the edge, then it should be deleted. And then if neither of those things happen, it'll just forever move 10 steps. The other thing that needs to happen is if it's touching the edge, it needs to stop this script. So the reason that this is becoming unresponsive is because those hidden fireballs are still going on forever. They're still trying to move 10 steps even after the clone is deleted. So we delete the clone and we stop this script, and it'll be inside here. This will prevent the scripts from running. Oh boy. Okay, so let's see if I can recreate that quickly. Oh boy, hey look, our project from the beginning. All right, fun. Don't do that to your project. Save often. Okay. So I'm gonna rush through this part now because you have all the other code. I forget who our editor was. It was something really good too. This guy's gonna try to catch our fireball now. That's gonna be kind of funny. And we have, well, there's the ball, and real quick, we're just gonna keep it at the ball. Okay, so the player is going to go ahead, and when the space key is pressed, we're going to fire the ball. So we need to do the broadcast that says fire the ball. When it receives fire, it's going to go to the player. Well, actually, let's have it create a clone first. No, it needs to go to the player, and then it creates a clone. Create a clone. Let's delete this clone. You can see it actually stops the puzzle piece there. It has that thing, so we don't need to do the stop the script. Just delete this clone, and it'll literally work. So it creates a clone, and then we want to hide the original. So we want to show and hide the original. All right, control events. Whenever the clone starts, we need to keep moving forward 10 steps. Then we need to check if we have, if we're touching the enemy, which is now this catcher. If we're touching the catcher, we wanted to change the looks. So I'll just put next costume. You'd have, you'd switch the costume to the correct one. So that'll, as soon as it hits there, it'll change. Wait 0.2 seconds, and then instead of hide, we want to delete this clone. Delete the clone. And if touching the edge, then we also just want to delete the clone. Delete this clone. So I hit spacebar, it fires, it changes the costume, and then deletes and disappears. And if the catcher is there, it does that. So obviously I rushed through this part of the code. You want to Yeah, you want to, what if I do this? Interesting. Oh, there's like 2 clones. Ooh, weird. Okay. You probably want to use the other code from before and just change it to delete this clone. But I'm going to play around for 1 more second because I want to be able to fire multiple attacks really fast. I keep saying fire creates a clone, but then the clone keeps getting deleted beforehand. Why is that happening? Should be able to have multiple clones. I don't know. Do this for now, and we'll debug that later. Okay. Well, that's how you create the fireball attack.